श्रद्धाभांजन है, श्रद्धाभांजन है, श्रद्धाभांजन है, श्रद्धाभांजन है। प्रभु आ गए भाई मांगिए भिक्षा, प्रभु आ गए भाई मांगिए भिक्षा। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Sri Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees, and all glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace SALIKA PRABHU. SALIKA PRABHU, thank you for accepting to speak today. We're very much grateful and appreciate it. So we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraichavam Narutama Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Jatatujaya Udiraye Nasta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Before reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, by regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees and all that is troublesome to the heart, is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of God, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 1, text number 33. Kasim Shivam Devaka Bhuja Puritriya Vishnu Pradyaiva Deva Amatu Yavai Swagarbina Tadara Devam Trayi Yata Yajna Vitanam Atam. Kasik Shivam Devaki Bhuja Putra Vishnu Pradyaiva Deva Amatu Yavai Swagarbina Dadara Devam Trayata Jatna Vitana Ataham. Kashi Shivam Devaka Bhuja Putriya Vishnu Pradyaiva Deva Amatu Yavai Swagarbina Dadara Devam Trayata Yajna Vitanam Atam. Word for word translation. Kasit, weather. Shivam, everything well. Devaki Bhoja Putriya, of the daughter of King Devaka Bhoja. Vishnu Prajaya, of she who gave birth to the personality of God. Eva, like that, of. Deva Matu, of the mother of the demigods. Aditi, Ya, one who, why indeed, Swagabina, by our own womb, that Araha conceived, Devam, the Supreme Lord, Drai, the Vedas, Yata, as much as Yagnavitanam, of spreading the sacrifice, Artaham, purpose. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Labai Charanara Vinda, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patikara Pavan Jagadish Prabhupada Ki Jai. As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka, Boja, conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Vedas are full of transcendental knowledge and spiritual values. And thus Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, conceived the Lord in her womb. As the personified meaning of the Vedas, there is no difference between the Vedas and the Lord. The Vedas aim at the understanding of the Lord, and the Lord is the Vedas personified. Devaki is compared to the meaningful Vedas, and the Lord to their purpose personified. Oma Gyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swampadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Shaha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tamsa Ajivam Sadhutam Saivadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganam Lalita Sri Vishakavitam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Vande Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Karpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyas Evascha Patitanam Pavajnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripat Amvande Sri Guru Dinatarina Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Sinvasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. As the Vedas are a reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Boja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Hare Krishna. So thank you all of the devotees for being here today for this transcendental moment of our lives. Moment to associate directly with the Lord, as especially emphasized in the text we are reading today. One who hear the Bhagavatam, speak the Bhagavatam, sit where Bhagavatam is being recited, is by virtue of this verse directly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everybody wants to see God. Everybody wants to play with God. Everybody wants to have time out or hang out, as they say, with God. But people do not know how to do this. So the verse we are doing it with today gives us the opportunity and explain to us how we can do that. But before we go into deep into this subject, I want to offer my respectful obeisances to all of the devotees who are gathered here today, who are fortunate enough to be part of this Sangha of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I offer my respectful obeisances to all our predecessor Vaishnavas, to our spiritual master, to the Parampara, for giving us this opportunity to associate with the Lord directly in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. We offer to obeisances to all of those who are listening to these classes on these different channels that we have this class live streaming. We pray that by their mercy that we'll be able to do this favor for our purification, for the pleasure of the Lord, and the satisfaction of our spiritual master. Sorry, I didn't remember to put my phone on silence. Sorry. So today we're reading from third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading text number 33 of the chapter 1, status quo. Sorry. Hello, Larry, I'm in a meeting, but I've given your number to my. So today we're reading from that chapter of the Bhagavatam where Vidura's inquiry continues. We've been hearing how we had different aspects of the Mahabharata story, how the Kauravas, the Pandus, all have some what also is prevalent in our modern times. The battle between good and the bad. Like Prabhupada always says, only two entities exist in this world, the devas and the demons. Some are demigods, some are demons. So the demigods, they are always making effort, engaging in activities that will glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the demons will engage in those activities that will bring down the activities of God. They will do everything to destroy human peaceful existence. Although the mindset of a father for creating a garden in his house is to create a space to have a joyful experience with his family. It is very common in modern times when you see a big man who has a lot of money, he will build a house and he will put in a swimming pool. He will put a garden. He will put different kinds of facilities. It's only one purpose, to create a facility for enjoyment with his family members. So you see a rich man although he has no capacity to expand himself beyond 3 feet by 6 feet. If he is very tall in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga, there are always nobody that is very tall, like in the previous ages. So the space he can occupy is not more than that, but you will see somebody who build house, sometimes even on 40 plots of land, and he will create so many. Recently, we saw one rich man in Nigeria. He built a house in a village where there is almost no third road to go there. But he went in there, built a very palatial building in a vast of land. And there is no access to that place because the roads to even to get to the place is very completely bad. So he felt, because he wants to enjoy himself, what he has. So he went ahead and bought an helicopter. So when he is going out in the village, only him, he will fly from his compound with an helicopter to go out. And when he's coming back, so he cannot even drive a car to that place, as bad as the road is. So in the same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of his manifestation, all of his creation are meant for his enjoyment with his unlimited manifestations. So, but in the material world, we see that the demons are always trying to obstruct that arrangement. And the demigods or the devotees are always trying to create environment to glorify this desire of the Lord to enjoy. So the Kauravas and the Pandavas, they are in the different side. And Lord Krishna wants to come establish Dharma. So we see the drama unfolding in the Mahabharata. And we see how Vidura uniquely has a role. And most importantly, because the Lord wants to establish Dharma, he enacts all of this drama in such a way that at the end, for those of us who have found ourselves in the material world, we can be able to enter into the enjoyment or the ras of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So for that purpose, the Lord creates Dharma. Yada yada hidama siya glani bhavati bharata. He descends whenever and whenever there is a decline in the peaceful coexistence of the world. He comes in and he enacts pastimes. And those pastimes from the mundane eye is just like another drama, but it's actually a divine arrangement for those of us who are conditioned, for everyone that is in this material world, whether he be a demigod, a human being, apsaras, whatever category of entity he is. There is only one thing that is permanent in all living entities in this material existence, is that we are always anchoring for something. We want something because we are incomplete. That is the nature of every living entity. And that is why you see from the position of Lord Brahma to the lowest ant, which is the most Indragopa, the littlest entity, the very, very symptoms of every being is that he's seeking for something. He wants something. Every endeavor is desiring to have something. So, and this is not a wrong desire. To desire to have something is not wrong. Because as an incomplete being, although the Lord says that that I'm complete, and every unit that is coming from him is complete. But the completeness of the incomplete is complete in the completeness of the complete personality of Godhead. One who is a fragmental part and parcel of God becomes complete only when he is in connection with the Supreme. And that is the whole essence of Dharma. So as we desire to get something, the Kauravas, led by the desire of Duryodhana, are desiring power. They want something. What they are asking for is secondary in this context. They desire something. Even Vidura, the Pandavas, they all are desiring something. And it is not absurd that they want something. It's always natural for one to have something. But one should want something that will be of a meaningful benefit to him or herself. That is the essence of what this verse is trying to make us understand. Vidura could choose to part with the Pandavas because he knows the Pandavas are right. Vidura could decide to stay with the sons of Dhritarashtra and fight in the side of Duryodhana. But Vidura's leaving the palace was unique because it establishes what Vidura desires, which is exemplified in what every Jiva Atma who has found himself in this embodied in this material body should desire for. And what is to be that desire? That one should desire to please the Lord, and in this way all desire becomes fulfilled. Because Vidura was not desiring for himself, he was seeking what would the Lord be pleased with most in this situation. So he followed the path. So he left the palace at the onset of the battlefield of Kurukshetra and was going in holy places. He was visiting many holy places and eventually came to this particular spot where he met great personality like Uddhava. Uddhava is said to have the same feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is a manifestation of perfection. So he met Uddhava there and he was asking, I have left home. There is different stories on the time Vidura has spent on his pilgrimage, but that is not the point here. But Vidura here is asking Uddhava about all his family, extended and close family members. But in this particular verse, there is this particular lessons that this text is bringing to us. The verse started by saying that the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purpose. Where is there need for sacrifices? Why should there be sacrifice? In the Christendom, they said there is no salvation without shedding of the blood. Although they misunderstood the purpose of Christ on the cross. Christ has the power to be able to avoid being captured and being nailed to the cross. But he taught a very significant lesson. Let thy will be done. When the moment came, Jesus Christ, he said, Lord, he prayed, but he said, Lord, let thy will be done. So Vidura exhibited the same thing, and it is what has positioned Mother Devaki here, that sacrifice. When we look at the life of the personality Devaki, in her previous life, she desired something. Just like everybody has a desire, but her desire was unique. What is her desire? She desired to have a child like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the very scripture tells us there is no likeness of God. Of course, we are said to be made in the likeness of God. But no one can actually be exactly like God because Krishna is uniquely Krishna. So the Lord, because she desired something very unique, the Lord benedicted her. And in 3 lifetimes, she became the house. She became the embodiment of the Lord. Prabhupada uses a specific language. He said, Devaki is compared to be the meaningful Vedas. What are the Vedas? The Vedas is Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that I'm the compiler of the Veda. I'm the spoker of the Veda. Of the Vedas, I'm to be known. So the Vedas embody the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the whole essence of knowledge here is that as we journey on the path of bhakti, we should desire such in a way that we become the embodiment of the Lord personality. That is the perfection of desire. It is not that it is wrong that one should desire, but one should desire in such a way that it becomes one with the Supreme Personality of God, and not like that of the impersonalist, but become the embodiment of, or the carrier of the Supreme Personality of God, as Devaki is described here in this verse. And we see that those devotees that carries this mood in the past, in the present, and even in the future will experience the kind of benediction Devaki is bestowed upon them. We've seen in the scriptures, we've read several stories of great personality, but sometimes when we look at our individual lives, we think that Krishna was present during the time of Vidura, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, and he is not present now. But that is not true, because Krishna is always present at every second. We see this happening in every day to day of our devotional life. Whether we have the eyes to see that is what is different. But Krishna is always present. And when we develop the kind of desire to have the most uniqueness of all unique desires, we see Krishna manifesting in our lives. Sometimes devotees will ask, we've seen that in the past devotees prayed and Krishna answered their prayers, but why is it that our prayers are not answered now? That is not true. There is a devotee in our yatra who just left his body today. He is a bhakta. He has a unique story. Overnight, just yesterday night, stroke this morning, he joined devotional service not like as a child. Sometimes we complain, we say because we were not born into devotional service, because we did not start devotional service at an early age. And that is why we have so much difficulty in becoming a devotee. But I tell you, pure devotional service is achievable even in this body. At this very moment, it takes a matter of seconds in shift of our consciousness. This devotee is a bhakta. He has not even been initiated. He is in his middle age, thereabout. And he left his family at that matured age. He came to the temple. He is called Bhakta Jaja. He doesn't have a name. But just like you and I, when we joined devotional service, were exceptionally very Paka devotees. Sometimes we wonder, why is it that our passion when we join devotional service is reduced now? Because we failed to do one thing that Gurudev said, that we should rejoin Krishna consciousness every day. And that joining Krishna consciousness is what brings about the story of this Bhakta that I'm just narrating. This Bhakta, everyone that spoke about this Bhakta today has been saying, is a new devotee. He doesn't simply even know most of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, but he has one very unique quality that everybody could see. He is the first person to finish his Karma Yoga in the morning. He wakes before everybody and he sleeps the last person. He waits until everybody has slept. Then he locks the temple gate and goes to bed. But he wakes before everybody, starts chanting his round, finishes his round before Mangalati, wake everybody to attend Mangalati. He is a Bhakta. He is not a Brahmana. He is not a sannyasi. He is not a Vanaprastha. He is just a Bhakta. Everybody call him a Bhakta. He served Prasadam last when his Prasadam is being served. And you know what happened to this devotee? Yesterday night, as usual, everybody went to sleep and he cleaned everywhere, make sure that everything was in order. He went to his room and only Krishna can tell what time he woke up this morning, but he woke up. When he wake up, he took his bead and he was chanting. And while he was chanting his bead at that early hours of the day, when everybody has not woken up, he collapsed and he left his body just like that. What could be more glorious than that? Then we call him a Bhakta. And when devotees wake up, those who always wait for Bhakta Jaja to come and wake them during Mangalati did not see him wake up. So some of them came late to Mangalati. And when they came to Mangalati, they didn't see Bhakta Jaja. And they were asking, so what happened? The temple president also became completely curious. He couldn't go to dress the date. He said, go and check what is happening. It is unusual. We can't find Bhakta Jaja. And they went to his room. When they went to his room, they knocked and knocked and knocked. Behold, Bhakta Jaja was not there to answer the call. And they went through the window, they peeped, and they saw Bhakta Jaja lying on his face with his bead in his hand, and they knew immediately something has happened. The door was locked from inside, so they forced the window open and entered. And when they entered, behold, Bhakta Jaja is gone. You and I doesn't have that opportunity that Bhakta Jaja had today, because I can't tell whether I will be fortunate to be able to be with my chanting bead, whether attentively or inattentively chanting, when that moment will come. That is the glory of Bhakti. Mother Devaki, she has the opportunity to desire to marry whoever she is. She's the story of, we have had the story of Devaki in her previous life and her husband. They sacrificed. They make sacrifices. They said, no, I only want someone like Krishna. And here she's described as the embodiment of the Vedic scriptures. And we also can become the embodiment of Krishna in these very lifetimes. The only thing is that we have to desire appropriately. Desire is everything. There is a popular saying, Mark Twain, one of the American poets, he wrote some very interesting quote. He said, if you always do what you always do, if you always do what you have always done, you always get what you have always gotten. So if our devotional service is that of inattentive chanting, inattentive devotion, at the end of our life, we will not be opportune to be arranged for by Krishna for like the experience Bhakta Jaja had. I had a devotee in my temple some years back. He left his body. That is another kind of a story, life experience. He fortunately was initiated. Ananda Krishna does. And he said, if Krishna exists, I want to live on a day of Ekadashi. When I live, I want to live in the presence of my spiritual mentor. He considered me to be his guru, even though he was this Gurudev's disciple, but because I mentor as a temple president, he said, I want to leave my body in his presence. And I was in a neighboring state. The day he was going to leave, nature brought me from another state, and I came. I took my water with Tosi, and I went to visit him. And the moment I got there, I got to the hospital, they said he has not been taking anything for the last 2 days. Even drip they were giving him, when they passed drip into his body, they said he's throwing it out. He has not opened his eyes nor talk. And the moment I got there, I said, let me go and see him. So as a devotee, I went with my water with Tosi, and I got there, I dropped the my water in his mouth. And he opened his eyes. He looked at me as if trying to say anything. He couldn't say anything. Then he closed his eyes back and he breathed his last. So life experience, even if we are not able to understand the story in the Mahabharata, if we cannot understand the story of Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas, but we can see even in our present experience that devotional service, there is nothing compared to it. It's a realistic process. It's something that works. So who is that fool? Who is that unfortunate person who will not embrace this Krishna consciousness? And it is said, Krishna in the verse we're reading, it is clearly mentioned that Devaki is compared to meaningful Vedas and the Lord to their purpose personified. So when one engage in hearing, just hearing Bhagavatam, just listening to this Bhagavatam, just listening to this kata, is directly associated with the Lord. And the Lord says that for those who worship me, I will be the swift deliverer of such a soul at the end of time. Everybody is worried about everything and anything. One devotee called me earlier today. One of my senior God, he's a senior God brother because he joined devotional service before me. And I called him and I was going to discuss something about devotional service relating to preparation for Jamastami. And this devotee was speaking with me for about 20 minutes. But what he was doing was just lamenting how President Tinubu was this, how this president, this country is like this, how everybody is suffering. And he was just lamenting and lamenting. So at a time, I could not hold myself. I just busted laughter. So he became embarrassed. He said, "Why are you laughing? This is not a laughing matter." I said, "Prabhu, I'm laughing. Why? Because I couldn't expect that a devotee will be lamenting like this. If it's a kami, I will appreciate it. But for a devotee to be lamenting like this," I said, "We are not part of this world." He said, "Prabhu, that one is philosophy. We are here, we are suffering. Why would a devotee suffer? Yes, the material world, there is everything that can go wrong is already gone wrong, like Gurudev said. There is nothing going right in this material world. But the reality is that a devotee is always blissful. That is the test of practice of devotional service. No one needs to tell you whether you are in Krishna consciousness or outside of Krishna consciousness or on the edge of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a live practical experience. One who is constantly engaging in associating with the Lord can never be a miserable person. Srila Gurudev said that a devotee is known by his symptom of blissfulness. A devotee can never be miserable. So in our devotional service, there is material what is filled. It's called Kunta Loka, place of anxiety. So there will always be anxiety spread everywhere, but a devotee is never affected by that. That is the test of our bhakti. That is the test of our devotional service. And we, even right now, we can become the embodiment of Krishna. We can be a shell in which Krishna resides in. There's a story of one demon, Banasura. Banasura performed so much of austerity, he pleased Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva became so pleased with him. He gave him 1,000 and 1,000. But because of the desire he had, when Banasura was asking for that benediction, Banasura was asking for the benediction because he wanted to be so powerful that nobody can defeat him. But Lord Shiva, of course, Ashutosh, he gave him the benediction. Banasura got the benediction and became so powerful. And when he got those benediction, Banasura was going everywhere trying to find somebody to fight with. Because when you have something, you want to use it. The challenge is that we all are asking for something, but what are we asking for in devotional service? Is what we are asking in devotional service becoming the source of our blissfulness in devotional service or the cause of anxiety in devotional service? We are constantly asking questions. We are constantly desiring something. We are constantly praying for something, whether consciously or unconsciously. So as we engage in devotional service, Vidura here is asking about Devaki. But one will ask, why would such a narration come into Bhagavatam? What is the significance of that? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a nice quotation. I think it's the 10th canto. Can I still remember that verse? It is in the 10th canto, yes. 10th canto, chapter 84, text number 13. There's a statement that said that for one who accepts this body, which is made of the three elements as itself, who has an affinity for intimate bodily relationship with his wife and children, who considered his land worshipable and who accepts the water of holy places and places of pilgrimage, but does not take advantage of the knowledge of the saintly persons there, is to be considered to be in illusion and no better than an ass or a cow. Vidura here is on pilgrimage. Thank you. 10th Canto, chapter 84, text number, thank you, 13. So, Vidura here is on the pilgrimage, but is asking about his family members. And the uniqueness is that, so, and this verse is telling us, one who identifies with his wife, family permanently or his own. But the uniqueness of the Vidura asking is that they are all families of God. So when a devotee is talking about anything, in any situation, because the activities of devotee, the family of a devotee, the associate members of a devotee is a family of the Lord. So such activities becomes glorious. So as we daily hear this narration, Vidura is making us, the conversation between Vidura, Maitreya, going to that of conversation with Vidura, Uddhava here, is all bringing us to remember the Lord. That is the essence. And these things doesn't come by chance. It has to do with what we desire. So Srila Prabhupada says that he often quotes that statement, that it is not wrong to hunt, but if one wants to hunt, he should hunt a rhinoceros. There are so many things that we desire, but why not desire for something unique? What would be more glorious in life than somebody leaving his body with a chanting bead in his hand during the Brahma Muhurta hours of the day? I don't know who that soul is, but one thing I'm sure is that that soul is not going below. It's going to an higher planetary system if it's not going back to Godhead, according to the revealed scriptures. How do I want to live? How do you want to live? What will be the last moment of my existence in this body? And we can desire that, and Krishna will make it happen. It's just what we desire. We've seen many devotees like that in our present moment times. It is not only that great personalities in the scriptures that we read the story, Devaki becoming the mother of God, Vidura, and great personalities. It is not because they are direct associate of the Lord and what they have is not accessible to us. No. By association of devotee and the Lord, in whatever forms that we are fortunate to have, gives us the benediction to attain the utmost, rarest attainment of life, which is to attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. So as we continue reading these verses, we should watch our thoughts, how we desire, and what we desire, Krishna will surely give it to us. The stories of the scriptures gives us a point and onto how we focus our desire. And ultimately, Krishna is standing beside us to reward us with what we desire. So let you and I consciously desire something that will be of a benefit, not to our body, but to our real self, the soul. Hare Krishna. So I will stop here to give opportunity for discussion on the text. And if there are corrections or comments, questions, it's welcome. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace SALIKA Prabhu. Like always, because To most of you, you might not know, but SALIKA Prabhu was not the original scheduled speaker for today. There was a situation that the scheduled speaker could not be here today. So SALIKA Prabhu, as usual, stepped in. And we can't thank you enough for rendering these services every now and then. With that, we go to Dr. Hassan. Please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
His Grace Salika Prabhu, I just kindly accept my humble respect of essences. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to the wonderful assembly of devotees. I love listening to you, but today you have really, really met my heart. And I can't thank you enough because it's more like you are speaking to me indirectly. Because sometimes we think that why didn't we born in a Vaishnava family from the beginning? So we keep making excuses that we are finding the devotional service too difficult to do because we did not born in the Vaishnava families or devotee families. But this has really, really inspired me a lot today that I still have the chance to do, to have the chance to do the devotional service. And all the stories that we are sharing is so inspiring. And I just want to thank you so much for this wonderful class today. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhakti. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for appreciating. Of course, yes. You're right. It's very interesting and beautiful at the same time. I have a question, Salika Prabhu. You had indicated that sometimes, as devotees of today, we say that, oh, if I were with Krishna personally, so I would do this, I could have done that. But Krishna is not gone. Krishna is forever here. Of course, that is what the scriptures say. So you're not saying anything different. That's what the scriptures say. But my question from that angle is that we are told that the gopis are like the greatest devotees of the Lord. So therefore, their love and knowledge about God must be superior. Yet we see that these gopis were always lamenting when they did not see Krishna. They are supposedly the most devoted people to Shri Krishna, and therefore they know better. So once they know that Krishna is never gone, Krishna is always there, why were they lamenting for not seeing Krishna? We just read about Akura. These gopis were even cursing Akura for taking their Krishna away. How do we explain this dichotomy? Krishna is gone, but he's always here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for this beautiful question, Sadi. As usual, in the material world, the significant reflection is the manifestation of dualities. So therefore, whatever we perceive in the material world, we see it in the mirror of dualities, which is covered by the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But on the transcendental plane, the perception of everything that we see in the material world that is attributed to these three modes of material nature is seen in a different way. And Prabhupada explained that crying materially generally is considered to be a symptom of suffering. But on the transcendental plane, crying is actually an emotion of joy. And we see that happens also in our material life, that when we become so happy to an extent, when that happiness gets to some zenith, we start shedding tears. So lamentation necessarily does not mean suffering. It depends on who is lamenting and from what level of consciousness the lamentation is coming out from. Like I gave an example, a devotee, we were conversing this morning, just this morning, and he was lamenting like anything. His lamentation wasn't a bad thing, but it becomes absurd because he was lamenting without understanding why things are the way they are going. Because a devotee will see that all of these things are just the fulfillment of Krishna's prediction. In the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we already know Krishna said all these symptoms will manifest in Kali Yuga. So as a devotee is seeing that, he's seeing his Lord manifesting whatever he has said. So a devotee is joyful, but is compassionate to those who are suffering because they do not understand why they are going through that experience. But a devotee is joyful, not joyful because people are suffering, joyful because the prediction of the Lord is coming to pass. So he's seeing an opportunity to extend his compassion, and he's using that opportunity to give Krishna consciousness. So he uses that suffering situation in a positive way. But to just lament like any other person means that one becomes ignorant. So lamentation necessarily does not mean ignorance, as it is generally perceived on the material plane. Lamentation could be as a result of, if we bring it down to the, under the three modes of material nature, lamentation also could be of three categories: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But even beyond these three levels of lamentation, there is a lamentation at the transcendental level. And that is what the gopis are manifesting. That kind of lamentation that they can afford, although they are embodiment of all knowledge. They are embodiment of all loving sentiment of God. So that level of sentiment, just like the example I gave at the beginning, crying, when one becomes joyful to an extent, he never knows when he starts shedding tears. And someone will start saying, why are you crying? He said, I'm so happy that I can't control my emotions. But he's crying. He said, but why are you crying? He said, because I'm so happy. So lamentation necessarily does not mean negative. Lamentation could be positive and it could be negative, but it depends on who is lamenting and what is lamenting for. So in this case, like my good friend was lamenting this, he was lamenting because of material things and it becomes mundane. But the gopis are lamenting also, but their lamentation is for Krishna. It becomes transcendental. So the lamentation of the gopis are not bad. They are beautiful. And one should lament like that because it is desirous And in one of his lectures, Srila Prabhupada has said that this crying business, although in the material level is bad, but on the spiritual plane is transcendental and is joyful, is the highest level of blissfulness. So I hope that answers the question, Prabhu.
Well, thank you so much for the explanation. Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you for sharing that. Since Dr. Hassan has something to say, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna. Yes, I come back again. I have a question, but I was stepping out, so I was thought I would not give the chance to have the answer. So His Grace, please, if we say Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari, what is the meaning? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, 11th canto, what chapter is that? And the 11th canto chapter, I'm remembering the verse, but I can't forget this chapter now. I'll remember. The descriptions of a Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama are nicely described. A Kanishta, Bhakta, or devotee, Kanishta means devotional service in practice. And there are symptoms of a Kanishta. I'm trying to check my notebook. A Kanishta devotee is a devotee who is in the practicing stage. He is learning how to do devotional service. It is said that such a devotee, he has faith, but he has no philosophical knowledge to back such faith. So his position is transient in the sense that he could fall down back to conditional material life. But a Madhyama Bhakta or devotee is one who is said to be in the middle or the middle stage or steady devotional service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is explained that such a devotee, in addition to having faith, he has knowledge of the scriptures. So he has philosophical understanding to back his faith. So it's difficult for him to fall down. And then Uttama Bhakta is one out of his steadiness. He has developed taste for the Supreme Personality, the loving sentiment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is releasing transcendental loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's no question of falling down for a pure devotee. Sometimes a Madhyama Bhakta could fall down, but very rare. There is a case of, I'm trying to remember a story. Occasionally we see that a Madhyama Bhakta could fall, but very rare. But because he has two components of bhakti, he has faith, he has knowledge, but he may necessarily not have taste or ruchi or pure love of God. So because of that, tendency to fall down is there, but he is steady, it rarely falls down. But an Uttama Bhakta is a devotee who is already releasing loving sentiment, relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So such a person does not fall down. I'm trying to get the verse in the Bhagavatam in 11th canto. Just I'm checking my notes. There are several verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but specifically 11th canto gives a specific description. Coming. But that is basically the basic symptom of a Madhyama Bhakta and a Uttama Bhakta. And Uttama Bhakta is a devotee on the stage of pure love of God. A Madhyama Bhakta is one who is steady in loving. Let me check. Just a moment. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is mentioned that the Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. Once you respect such a person with his mind and is as a Kanishta Vaishnava, a Madhyama Bhakta or Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and he has been fully engaged by him in transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Bhakta should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. An Uttama Bhakta is a highest level devotee. He is one person who is very advanced in devotional service. And Uttama Bhakta is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean. And he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. That is what Nectar of Devotion says. I hope that satisfies yourself. But as we go along, I am trying to remember the verse in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam.
Yes, you agree. It's very, very satisfied. Very satisfied. Yes, very, very satisfied with the answers. Yes.
Go to 11th canto, chapter 5, text number 42. Let's see. That's not it. That's not the verse I want to. Why is that verse far from me today? But these are the basic qualification of a Madhyama and Uttama Bhakta. If I get the verse in the course of the discussion, I'll share it with you. It clearly describes the qualities of a Madhyama, Uttama, and Kanishta Adhikari.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll be very, very grateful. Thank you. But your answer is it has made me give me the understanding of what's that. I really wanted to know what exactly it means. But please, if you find the verses, please kindly share with me so I can go through that. Thank you so much, Your Grace. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Madhavan Prabhu.
Shri Madhavan Prabhu, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. All glories unto your little feet, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and the assembly of devotees. Actually, Prabhu, you have made the definition that the Kanishta Adhikari is a beginner or the lowest step or as a devotee. And he has faith in Krishna consciousness, but doesn't have enough knowledge in terms of philosophical knowledge. Therefore, it could be distracted because normally once you're a devotee, you are just starting. There'll be people who like to talk you out of it. But the moment you don't have enough knowledge of the philosophy, then you can be easily be overcome and change your mind. The case of Madian Adhikari, he has faith and then he has developed the knowledge, philosophical knowledge to back up his own activity. And as such, it could not be easily defeated by non-devotees. And then the Tama, he has faith, he has knowledge, and he has, because of sufficient knowledge and practice, he has been relishing the transcendental knowledge or activity. So it's almost impossible for him to fall down. So I think you have given us the basic definition of what this page is. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Madhavan Prabhu. I like to always reference the scripture. So yeah, you're right. That is the basic definition.
Well, since you were talking about Canto 11, there are some statements in that regard in Canto 11 by Jagat Guru Sri Prabhupada. If I may put it up here, 11, 2, 46, and 47.
Yeah, 46, 47. I know it's 46, 2, 46, 47.
Yeah, 11, 2, 47. It says, a devotee who is faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not behave properly toward other devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic devotee, and is considered to be in the lowest position. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the different levels of devotional service. And here we see this is the vision of the Mahabhagavat, devotee of the Lord. The Mahabhagavat, they see everything that exists within creation as the body of the Supreme Lord Hari. And they offer their sincere respects to the entire expansion of the Lord's body. So Madhavacharya states that a Madhyama Adhikari, a devotee in the intermediate state, sees the Supreme Presence of Godhead as the cause of all causes and therefore offers his love to the Lord. Such a devotee is a sincere friend of other devotees, is merciful to the ignorant and avoids the atheists. Nonetheless, Tat Vashatvam na Jyati Sarvasya Jagatu P2. His realization of the all-pervading feature of the Supreme Lord is imperfect, although he does have a general sense that everyone is ultimately meant to be a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and he tries to use everything in the service of Krishna, aware that everything belongs to the Lord. So that's what most devotees...
The last point is very interesting. He said, he may be bewildered by association with atheistic men. So that's what I was trying to explain, that a Madhyama Bhakta sometimes could fall down, but though very rare, but also it could fall down.
Yeah.
But rarely they fall down because they are in knowledge, they understand.
And he explains a Kanishta Adhikari cannot imagine that anyone is more pious or religious than he. And he is not even aware that other devotees are more advanced. Somebody should hear this. Thus, he cannot understand the Madhyama or Uttama standard of devotional service. And sometimes, because of his false pride, he criticizes the more advanced devotees of the Lord, neglects them, or simply has no understanding of the exalted position as preachers or completely self-realized souls. So I think devotees may read this later
Yes,
on.
11 Canto chapter 2. I know it's text 46, 47. Let's read this text 47 also. The two verses explains it.
Yeah, another symptom of the Kanishta Adhikari is that he is infatuated by the material qualifications of the so-called great materialistic persons. Having a bodily concept of life himself, he is attracted by material opulence and thus minimizes the position of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Such a Kanishta Adhikari, therefore, is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. Because the Kanishta Adhikari is ignorant of the higher realms of devotional service and the unlimited transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, he sees devotional service merely as the religious aspect of life, but thinks that life has many enjoyable and worthwhile non-devotional aspects. Srila Prabhupada put in so much practical information in here. So 11, 2, 46, and 57.
Take note. 11 Canto chapter 2, text 46 and 47.
Yeah.
And they read the purport of the two verses, you will have a clear understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sadi, for bringing that up.
Well, thank you for referencing those verses, because you were reading from other places, but you were really adamant to referring to Canto 11.
So,
yeah.
But I knew it was 11 Canto and they know the verses 46, 47. I couldn't remember the chapter.
Yeah. Well, devotees, I have a question. Yeah, Shri Govinda. Yeah.
Prabhu?
Yes, Govinda Prabhu.
Oh, Dandava pronounce.
Hare Krishna.
Sri SALIKA Prabhu. And Dandava pronounce to the devotees. Our glory to Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhu, my question is, I'm very much my mind is actually everywhere. And
Shri Govinda,
I'm beginning to
Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, Haribol.
Yeah, you broke up. We couldn't hear you, so if you may start your question.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Me? Oh, okay,
yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so
did you hear what I said?
Yes. I'm saying that my mind is everywhere, and I'm really touched by Prabhu, your presentation, and more especially the devotee who just left his body, and the other one also who left in your presence. And it's making me go deeper into myself. And also I'm wondering how I can be more respectful to every devotee, not to consider who is Kanista, who is Madhyama, and who is Uttama. Because it's very difficult to identify who is who. Just like Jada Bharat and King Raghunath will constrain Jada Bharat as a useless fellow. And so sometimes one may demonstrate some kind of Kanista qualities. And then we say it's Kanista qualities. And then we may think that, oh, he's on the platform of Kanista. He's a Kanista devotee. But he might have been displayed that quality, but he may not be on that platform as Kanista. And then we cannot identify, because we are, some of us, myself, I'm not on that higher level to judge who is who. So about who have just come into devotional service and look at the lifestyle of this devotee and how he passed away, how he left his body, is amazing. It's amazing. And so my question is, how can I see every devotee as a devotee of the Lord, whether he has just come in today or he's been in for 60 years? How can I respect everybody? It is said that you cannot give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So how can I, yesterday, this Mataji was giving presentation, and he was talking about we loving ourselves. What is ourselves? Taking care of ourselves better so we can take care of others. So the question actually should be, how can I take good care of myself so that I can, or how do I see myself so that I can see others as such? Because this is very, very difficult. Sometimes devotional service, it is said that is the highest platform of religiosity. It's like highest level of education materially, going to university, and master degrees and whatnot. And so devotional service on this platform. So therefore, ordinary soul would not come here. Whoever enters into devotional service is a very, very special, very unique personality. But how can we see everybody on this platform so that you don't become judgmental? As soon as there is a demarcation of these levels, then we are going to see people as such. But because we cannot go within, because we are not ourselves so much realized, to know who is SALIKA. I'm only seeing the body, but I'm not seeing his soul. I don't see his previous life. I don't know what he did. What happened to him? He's going back home in this in this lifetime. So I'm only seeing the externals. Likewise, all other devotees. How can I see everybody on that ground? That is my question, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. There are multiple questions in your one question.
Yes.
And I will try to see how Guru will allow me to be able to respond to them all. The first question is, how do we see devotees, not just in the devotee family, in devotee environment alone, but everywhere? So that Gurudev, I think that was in 2003, he gave a lecture, a seminar in Mayapur, and his opening speech is that everyone ultimately is a devotee. To start that seminar, he was speaking to his God brothers. I think Mayapur Festival, that lecture should be 2003. And I was explaining that in the first place, a devotee should see that everyone is a devotee of the Lord. But how do one come to that point of being able to see everyone as a devotee of the Lord? Sometimes we think that the most biggest thing is difficult to attain, but the biggest and the biggest of every biggest thing is to understand the most simplest thing. And that is why when Lord Krishna starts teaching Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, it started from the most fundamental knowledge, which most oftentimes we forget, that brings us to the point of disrespecting or looking down on other persons. The he knows me yata de he kawumaram yovanam jara tata de antara praptri dirasta trena muyati. The beginning of understanding is that knowledge comes to the right perspective when one develops that vision of understand that every living entity is spirit. And where Krishna confirms that Mamaivanso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So that is the fundamental knowledge everyone needs to understand. And that is the beginning of human life. Human life begins when one starts seeing beyond the body. Most oftentimes, people cannot see others with respect because they see them less than a human. Although they don't say it by word of mouth, but the fact is that every Jiva Atma, irrespective of whatever kind of body he has found him or herself, is a spirit soul, equal in all respects. But materially, because he's wearing a different garment, or financially is wearing a different garment, or devotional environment-wise is wearing a different garment, just like the Bhakta that left his body. An average person in that temple today will be thinking, who has a mind, will start thinking, oh, can I be this fortunate to have the kind of glorious exit like this devotee? But before this, yesterday stroke this morning, an average person would think, when they talk, will say, I'm a Brahmana, I'm a senior devotee. But what could be more senior devotee than having this kind of a glorious Krishna's exit? So the beginning point is that you ask a question, how can we see everybody? The beginning point is that for us to come to that platform, which every other thing climbs upon, and that is to understand that we are not this, but I'm Aham Brahmasmi, I'm spirit soul. That is where knowledge begins from. Unless one comes to that platform of Aham Brahmasmi, every other thing that is built on top of whatever one tries to express will be faulty. So that is the beginning point, that one has to come to that platform of realizing that Aham Brahmasmi. Now, going forward, it's like Gurudev used to say that being selfless does not mean to think less about oneself, but to think of oneself less. The first time I heard that statement from Gurudev, I was bewildered. I said, how can one not think of himself less when he's not in poet, this is called, there's a word they call it. Sadie, maybe you remember. There's a poetic way, the metaphors, the way they, when they
paradox.
use
Paradox.
Paradox. Thank you very much. So there's a kind of a paradox that how can you, that selfless does not mean thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So when one comes to the platform of understanding the self as the soul, it becomes easy to see other persons as a spirit soul. And then one starts developing the vision of understanding that everyone has a junction where he comes in to do a particular thing. For example, let us even take the characters of the verse of the Bhagavatam they were reading. When one looks at the birth of Vidura, Vidura ordinarily would look like someone to be disabled because he was born by a maid servant of a queen. He cannot be called highly, but he's said to be among his brothers. He was supposed to be, he's said to be most elevated. Of course, is Yamaraj himself. So when we understand that one is a spirit soul, and each individual soul have a journey that is unique in its own self, then one learns to be able to respect each other. Now, the other aspect of your question, which towards the end of the question you're trying, if I understand correctly, is that in devotional service, when we have this foundation, which I explained just now, it becomes easy in the environment of devotional service. Whether somebody is a Brahmana, and that is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited when he said in the 4th stanza of the Shishastakam, Na Danam, Na Janam, Na Sundarim, Kavitam Jagat Ita, that I have no desire to accumulate wealth or desire beautiful men, or do I want any number of followers. So all this level of realization cannot be artificial. No one can artificially exhibit or display the quality of devotional service. It begins from the point of level of first knowledge. And when knowledge comes and knowledge advances, and that is why the Vedic terminology, Gyan and Vigyan, when one gets knowledge, the first beginning of is to get knowledge. Arjuna, when he got the knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi, then later on, when Krishna asked him in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, so Arjuna, I've spoken to you, you have heard attentively from me. So you are free, you decide what to do. So because he has realized, because in chapter 11, Arjuna told Krishna, I said, now I know that you are that supreme personality of God. So when one realizes, but the first stage is that one becomes knowledgeable, and knowledge means to understand Aham Brahmasmi, and beyond knowledge is realization of Vigyan. And when one is embodied in Vigyan, he realizes knowledge, he starts acting on that platform. And that is why they said mindset is everything. There's a saying that mindset is what separates the best from the rest. So when you see somebody being excellent in his behavior, in his character, in his utterances, it is not as a result of some artificial gymnastics. It's as a result of the consciousness or the level of mindset of that person. I hope I try to answer your question, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, thank you very, very much. Yeah, actually, that's the beginning of devotional service. We want to realize himself as who he is, and that realization is that I'm not a body, but I'm a spirit soul. So if we can see myself in everybody, then just like I respect myself, then I must also give respect to everybody, because we are all the same, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Thank you for that answer, Prabhu. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I have a second question. I don't know if I'll be allowed to ask.
Okay, go ahead. It's a follow-up question.
Is it a follow-up? If it's a follow-up, then you may. Otherwise, we'll go to Harichakra and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, go back.
So,
go to.
Okay, so before we go to Harichakra Prabhu, I want to play this video briefly because His Grace SALIKA Prabhu made reference to that.
Thank you. Yeah, that is it.
Any situation, any problem, any individual who has a concern, so important is how we see ourselves, how we codify things, how we evaluate, how we perceive the situation, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others, how we evaluate the field of activities that we have to deal with. So I want to present three things: the relationship to devotee making, devotee maintaining, particularly in relationship to creating devotional consciousness on a massive scale. First thing is that everyone is a devotee.
Yeah.
So there's a problem when we are thinking that we have to make devotees. Then we have to think of so many impositions. We consider that we're all devotees, and we have to see how to bring that out. Along with that is that.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So that's what I wanted to share. So we go to His Grace Harichakra Prabhu, please. Harichakra Prabhu, you may unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, SALIKA Prabhu, thank you very much for your in-depth analysis of this verse. Yeah, I have a question that goes, it's like a three-sided question. But I'll ask it. Part of the question, part of my question has been answered by you already when you were trying to answer Govinda Prabhu's question. You answered part of my question, but I still, because since I said the question has 3 parts, let me ask it anyway. The question is, when you started, when Bata Hassan asked this question and you were trying to explain the different levels of devotees, Kanista, Madhyama, and Uttama, it brought something to my mind, and I was just thinking that how does this work? Because in one of the explanations, Madhuvan Prabhu was explaining that the Madhyam can has faith and he can defend the philosophy. He can defend the devotional service or Krishna consciousness with philosophy, with like scriptural reference and all that. Yeah. But we realize that there are some devotees who really are well versed in scripture, that if it comes to philosophy, they can convince you, they can defeat you, whatever it is. So if Madhyam is the person who has a faith and he can defend the philosophy, he can defend the whatever devotional service with scriptural references and whatnot, then where does Gyan and Vigyan come in? Because we understand somebody can be well versed in the scripture, highly versed in the scripture, but might not even be like following whatever he has learned in his life. So where does it come in? Because if the person can defeat people, even though he's dressed in the garb of a devotee, he can defeat people, he can convince people so far as the scripture is concerned. So then what is the difference between that person and someone who we refer to as a Kanista?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a beautiful question. And
yes.
I'll share.
Let me bring the other side of my question too. Okay, maybe the other side of my question is, Krishna says that, I mean, like in our everyday life, we understand, like if you have children in the house and a little child, like about 2-year-old, if the 2-year-old makes something, that's something very, I mean, impressive. You can reward the 2-year-old with something, maybe an ice cream, or you buy a toy car for the 2-year-old to encourage him or her for the effort he has made, right? But if your child is like 20 years old, 30 years old, and he does something impressive, well, how can you buy that boy a toy car as something to what do we call appreciate, as something of appreciation for you must give him something in accordance to the level he is, right? Yeah, and Krishna himself has declared that all of them, he says, everyone follows my path in all respects, everyone. And all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So if somebody has surrendered to Krishna, you might not even know he surrendered to Krishna, 1%. But that 1%, he's actually very devoted to that 1%. He's wholeheartedly surrendered in that 1%. How do we see that person as being lower than someone who is matured and is 20% surrendered, but out of the 20% surrender, he's maybe committed 15%, fully committed 50%, but Krishna says he will reward all of us accordingly. So this interplay is like it's like sometimes it looks very confusing.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I know that you're asking for the question for benefit of all of us. The first thing is that the fact that someone can read, quote, the scriptures does not make him a Madhyama Bhakta. For him to be qualified to be described as a Madhyama Bhakta, he must have an unflinching faith in devotion in Krishna and Krishna's Bhakti. And I'll share a story, which I think I shared that story on this platform before. There was a senior God brother of mine. Of course, there are several stories of God brothers who, when we joined devotional service newly, it was a tradition. There are some devotees that are so scholarly. In fact, one of the devotees, the first Bhagavad Gita class that I listened to, I will not mention the name because everybody will know, but there is one devotee. It's a scholarly person. I will not even mention his profession because maybe someone may even get it. He was speaking on Bhagavad Gita 9:22. And when he spoke that verse, I surrendered from my heart that day. That was the first Bhagavad Gita class I would attend. So the fact that somebody can quote scriptures very fluently, he can recite them off air, does not make such a person a Madhyama. He must have the combination of the two qualities. He must have faith. In some cases, sometimes even the fact that we say a Kanishta has a faith, it is not necessarily a non-devotee we are talking about, because there are some people who are in devotional service but are still non-devotees. Somebody may be in a Krishna movement. He may be wearing dhoti. He may be wearing saffron, but it's not yet a Kanishta. Kanishta is not just an ordinary platform. Sometimes we misunderstand and we think that because somebody is called a Kanishta, to be given the qualification of a Bhakta, it means that he has faith in Krishna. And what is the definition of faith in Krishna? That whatever happened, Krishna will protect me. Such a person, he has absolute faith in Krishna. He has no doubt of nothing can shake his faith. He has that level of faith. And if knowledge is added to that, it becomes a Madhyama. So when we say a Kanishta devotee also could be of three classes. And beyond that, because Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 10:10 that one may be in Krishna consciousness, be engaging in karma yoga. It may not be engaging in bhakti if he's attracted to fruitive activities. Someone can be in devotional service, is attracted to Gyan, is engaging in Gyan yoga, not bhakti. So it's not a bhakta, it's a Gyani. And somebody could be in devotional service, but he has faith in Krishna, engaging in devotional service in faith. That is a Kanishta Bhakta. So that is first must be understood. So such a person who has unflinching faith in Krishna and added to it knowledge and ability to recite, to defend the scriptures, to defeat ignorance with the references of the scripture, such a person is called a Madhyama. And it's not a sentimental thing that somebody just speak it, I'm a Madhyama Bhakta. No. The life of a Madhyama Bhakta, and that is why I was very eager to quote that verse of 11th Canto, because Srila Prabhupada broke it down to pieces in a layman language, characteristics of a Madhyama Bhakta. Characteristics of a Madhyama Bhakta are such that is never shaken. But because he has not started, we talked about the 9 levels of devotional advancement. Such a person has not is on the stage of steadiness, but he has not attained rushi or taste for Krishna. But he has that level of knowledge, so he could still fall down. So that is a Madhyama Bhakta. Now, when we talk about devotee relationship, and thank you again, Sahadev Prabhu, for bringing that. It's one of my favorite lectures, Gurudev lecture. When I listened to that lecture for the first time, I was so amazed, and I wished every devotee. Sahadev, if you have the link, YouTube link of it, maybe you can share on the chat room so that devotees who have not listened to that lecture should go and listen to it. If you have the link of it, please kindly share it so that devotees can take it. Everyone needs to listen to that lecture to understand the importance of Vaishnava relationship, because in most often times, it is due to lack of understanding of relationship in devotional service that brings us to neophyting, or what we call neophyte, and that is why Vedavyas Maharaj said that we are neophyters when he came to West Africa some years back. So, in essence, the classification of a Kanishta, a Madhyama, or Uttama Bhakta are not based on just philosophical statements. They are rooted in the personality, the character, the knowledge, and the expression of bhakti. That is what makes someone either a Kanishta, a Madhyama, or Uttama Bhakta. It is not just based on the philosophical understanding or literary knowledge of what a Bhakta is. It is embodied in all of what the person embodied in his speech, in his lifestyle, in his activities, in everything that he does. So it is exhibited. And that's why we're sharing the story of that devotee that left this body today, because that person, that devotee, no one can tell where he is. But the fact is that by the way he quits his body, and when we listen to the scriptures, when we read the scriptures, we see that not ordinary person could leave his body the way he left his body. So these are all important references to note. That is the way to understand it.
Hare Krishna. Hare Chakra Prabhu, are you okay? We go to back to Hassan, and then we'll go back to Govinda Prabhu if Salika Prabhu still has some time for us. Back to Hassan, please, you may unmute.
Krishna, Your Grace, please, can you go to Grace Govinda, then you come up to me, please?
Okay. Shri Govinda Prabhu, please, you be on mute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
My
Krishna.
respectful obeisances to you all again. Actually, this is not a question per se. You see, talking of appreciating devotees, I think this is very, very important that we acknowledge the level of exhibition that is exhibited by many wonderful, wonderful devotees from the past, and that we are reading their pastimes today and try to emulate their lives and embody it in our own spiritual journey. This very devotee, Prabhu just quoted his passing away again. Just imagine if, like, you have such a devotee who just left his body, and we are reading about him 500 years ago, or somebody, a devotee like that, this he left body. What could have been a lesson for us hearing about this devotee today? If we say, oh, 500 years ago, during the era of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during Krishna's era, 5,000 years ago, and we are hearing this pastime of this devotee, now, what would be the lesson for we, the listeners? I believe that we will all be inspired very much if we are to hear this pastime of this devotee 1,000 years ago. So what are we doing today? This is right before us. What are we doing? Those scholars who can write, we need to write, put all these things in books. I'm so glad today we have YouTube. I don't know what will happen to YouTube the next 100 years to come, because these narrations will still be there, but I don't know what will happen to it. You know, so what are we doing to keep all these records? for the future, generation of devotees to come. And then, to hear all these wonderful devotees and their activities. I know one devotee who is with us here today. He has gone through a lot of trauma in his devotional life. He has been facing all kinds of challenges you can ever think of. And he's still very staunch and steady. When you talk of steady, he is steady. And we don't have anything of his record. He will just go away and we forgot about him. And then there's this devotee, Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj did so many things in Nigeria and of course all over the world. And when he passed away, I believe, and I quite remember, that we were all talking about putting his activities on records in a book. And then SALIKA PRABHU, this would be a question to you. You accepted that survey that we are going to write about Bali for future generation of devotees to read. I don't know whether we have written that book about Bali Maharaj. I mean, this is what is bothering my mind. There's many wonderful devotees coming in this our lifetimes, and they are doing so much, but we don't have no records about their lives in devotional service. I think if some of us can take that as a service, Opala Prabhu from Nigeria is doing so much. He wrote about the lifestyle of Gurudev in Africa, and it's so amazing when you read that book. And there are so many devotees, also performing the same feat. But we don't have their records. So please, what are we doing to keep all these records, those who can write so nicely, so that we can keep all this legacy for future devotees to come and read it? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Govinda Prabhu. As we were just speaking, I was just remembering a quote I shared recently in one lecture I gave somewhere. I said to the it was a forum whereby we're going to go and talk about peace, how to develop peace in our communities and by extension to the global communities. So I started by saying that sometimes everybody is looking out for peace. So I said, I wrote that quote. I said, sometimes the reason good things are not happening to us is because probably we are the good things that is supposed to happen to others. Good things are not happening to us sometimes because we are the good that is supposed to happen to others. And I was just thinking about that as you're speaking, and interestingly, you now quoted me saying at some point in time, I want to write about Bali. I want to write about so many devotees. But then I'm looking at, I have so much going on in my life that sometimes I'm trying to, somebody met me recently in Ethiopia when we went for a UN event, AU, sorry. And for the first time, he has been hearing about and seeing devotee from distance, but the first time he will have opportunity to be one-on-one with a devotee. She's a member of the, she works with the UN, UNESCO. And we got talking. She's a lady, matured lady. She has been in Nigeria sometimes for research and something all of that. So we ended up talking from 7 o'clock till 11 o'clock in the night because she started asking me questions. So how did you come about this Hare Krishna thing? Who were you before Hare Krishna? And then by the time I started telling the life stories of myself to him, he said, no. I think you need to write a book. This is a unique life that shouldn't go to waste. Several generations needs to learn from this. And that is the life of a devotee. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that you just pointed to me as someone who is meant to write. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that I think it's everyone's responsibility. Maybe it's you, me, Saturday, and all of us need to put in some effort to get this thing documented. It is a fact that if we are reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita during the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, that one of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, he was chanting. He woke up early in the hours of the Brahma Muhurta hours. He was chanting, and while chanting the holy name, he slumped or fall on his face, and he left his body in that way. We'll be so inspired and so, enlivened by that story that we will be thinking it's not possible in our times. But this is a
absolutely.
Yeah, this is a story, and the devotees went there. They did something good. Maybe the person wasn't thinking of what he was doing, but he snapped a video. You see the way the devotee, you see that it's not something intentional. The way he fall on his face and with his bead just by his side, he recorded it with video. And I was just looking at that, and I got so inspired. Everybody was lamenting, sad, but I was seeing the other pictures. So, but the essence is that what you're saying is right, and it is the responsibility of every one of us. I wish Krishna gives me that power. We find someone here. Yeah, thank you, Sadifu. That's the quote I was sharing. So I think that rather than diverting energy into what is not happening right, what we should all do, not just me, but every one of us should start thinking what we can do to contribute to bringing this together. As Prabhupada always says that Shato Vanyam Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasa, that Krishna has created the four social order of life designed by him. And the spiritual master's duty, Srila Prabhupada was expert in doing that. He empowered each and every devotees who are different qualifications, different talents, to be able to manifest so many things happening. But in our times, we seem not to focus on talents. We focus on positions and all of many distractions that is distracting us. But I think your advice, your statements is very vital. We all need to do something. And since you have reminded me, I will try. But you also will need to do part of it. Keep reminding me so that even if I forget, I'll keep remembering that I'm indebted. I've made the promise so that I can remember to do it.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. I think we are all here. We are all here to support you. So we just need to start from somewhere, and let us know you've started and did this. What you need to get the work done. So you're gonna start, and then you can involve everybody. And I believe everyone here is ready to assist.
Hare Krishna. It's been 2 hours, but it is said that when you are participating in something that is so relishable, time runs so fast. Because you want the time to stay. So
Sir.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. After Salika answered my question, I got a little bit busy. That's why
Distracted. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm thanking Salika for the answer he gave.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So Salika Prabhu, we have
And I also Sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
I would
Yes.
also like to thank. I would also like to thank Vara Prabhu very much for his dedication, his love, his enthusiasm, his commitment, and everything to devotional service. And I pray to him to pray for us so that we can become steady and have that unflinching faith of Krishna like he do. So I just want to show my appreciation to Varaha Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Hare Krishna. I think that appreciation and recognition is not just you, it's almost all of us, if not all of us. So thank you for being
Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
the mouthpiece. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Please, do I still have the chance to ask my question, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay. First of all, I will thank His Grace, SALIKA Prabhu once again. A lot of the senior devotees, they inspired me a lot, and you are one of them. And I wish one day you shared your story, because since you're from a Muslim background, in fact, the way you speak the philosophy is inspired me a lot. And I wish one day I'll be like you. I will not be like you, but I can follow your footsteps. Yes. Okay, this leads to, I want to ask this question. You said that during the class, you said that all the prayers, Krishna hear our prayers. And my question is, I hear this story that there was one devotee who was very sick, and this devotee, he was praying to Krishna to cure him. And after Krishna cured him, he told the devotee that he wanted to take him home. So it's like this devotee, or sometimes devotee, will interfere with Krishna's arrangements. And since we have these material bodies, we already have a problem. Sickness, everything will come. So for instance, if I'm very, very sick, I have to take medication and I have to pray to Krishna to cure me. So if Krishna wants to take me home, how would I know? Because if I know that this sickness is taking me home, I would love to get sick and go home, back to Godhead. So if we say that we interfere in Krishna's arrangements, can you please explain that further? Because somebody who is very sick and going through pains, and this person is praying to Krishna to cure me, because we know that Krishna hears our prayers. And at the same time, this prayers is interfering. I find it very difficult to digest that. So if you can explain it, or you can throw more light on that, please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for this beautiful question. One of the angles of bhakti, there are 9 processes of bhakti as given by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of the most important aspects of it is anga is Vandanam, prayers. And whenever I hear about prayers, I always quote a reference. Again, it boils down to the fact that unless one comes to the platform of a human being, nothing can be done right. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 58, Machita Sarva Dugane. In the purport, specifically, Prabhupada mentioned, no conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. So that is our position in conditional life. And once we come to realize that Aham Brahmasmi, and that I'm part, that Brahmasmi or that spirit soul is fragmental part and parcel of Krishna, everything becomes clear. Even prayer become authentic and realistic, Prayers in the conditional life is actually, like you rightly said, interfering with Krishna's arrangement in our lives. So therefore, it is said that one should not pray. A person should, three persons are not supposed to pray. A person in conditioned life, a materialistic person who is in a conditioned state of life should never pray, because whatever he prays for is going to cause his death. Who is the second person that should not pray? A man in a drinking state, who is in intoxicated state of consciousness, he should never pray. Because whatever he prays for at that moment, and material life sometimes is considered to be an intoxicated life or state of lifestyle. And the third person who should not pray, who should never attempt to pray at all, is one who doesn't know Krishna. So until less one knows Krishna, he should never pray. Because whatever he prays for will be wrong. Because he's in a wrong state of existence. So a drunkard, a materialistic person, and one who is ignorant of Krishna, they should never pray. But they are the one that prays so much in the material sense of it. So if one understands his original position, then he understands how to pray. When we look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, we've read that as we go along in this, let's talk about this canto, third canto. When we get to the ninth chapter of this canto, chapter 3 of this third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we get to chapter 9, he's talking about the prayers of Lord Brahma. And in the text one, Lord Brahma said that, my Lord, today, after many, many years of penance, I've come to know about you. How unfortunate are the embodied living entities that they are unable to know your personality, my Lord. You are the only knowable object, because there is nothing supreme beyond you. If there is anything supposedly superior to you, it is not the absolute. You exist as the supreme by exhibiting the creative energy by matter. What Lord Brahma is saying, third canto, chapter 9, text number 1. The chapter is titled Prayers of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is giving us the state of consciousness of one who is supposed to pray. And that is why I said 3 persons must not pray. Because whatever they prayed for will be wrong. And it will be to their detriment. So Lord Brahma is saying here that after so many years of sacrifices, in other words, he has realized, when he came to realize Krishna, that yes, this is God, then he started praying. One who prays without knowledge of Krishna is someone who is blind and is trying to navigate his path on the road, or somebody in the darkness who is trying to move within the house. Every chances is that he's going to fall into a pit. Yeah, thank you very much. Brahma's prayer for creative energy. So Lord Brahma is teaching us that how to pray. My Lord, after many, many years of penance, I came to know about you. And when you go down that chapter of the verse, when you go to text number 7, since we're there, when you go to, it says there's something beautiful there. Oh Lord, persons who are bereft of all auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratitude for a little while. This is the statement of Lord Brahma. So prayers as you just said, is a powerful thing, but it's a restricted activity. Generally, people believe that everyone can pray. No, no one should pray. Only those persons, but Brahma is saying here, one who has realized that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, only such a person should pray. There is several verses, because we have stayed a long year, but when we study these prayers of Gajendra, Gajendra taught us in the 8 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam also how prayers should be. Maybe I quote this reference and I'll stop on this. Sorry, maybe we can bring that also out. Canto 8, chapter 3, text number 14. Eighth canto, chapter 3. 8th canto, chapter 3, text number. My Lord, you are the observer of all the objects of the senses. Without your mercy, there is no possibility of solving the problem of doubts. The material world is just like a shadow resembling you. Indeed, one accepts this material world as real because it gives a glimpse of your existence. This is realization of Gajendra after he has struggled. When you look from the beginning of this story of Gajendra, you understand why he's saying this. When you go down also, you will see in the next verse, he said, my Lord, you are the cause of all causes, but you yourself have no cause. Therefore, you are the wonderful cause of everything. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the shelter of the Vedic knowledge contained in the Shastras like the Pancharatras and Vedanta Sutra, which are your representations, and who are the source of the Parampara system, because it is you who can give liberation. You are the only shelter for all transcendentalists. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. And it goes on and on and on. This is prayers. This is what, when we say prayer, this is what prayer means. Prayer means realizing that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Unless one comes to that level, he should not pray. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu and assembled Vaishnava devotees.
Wow.
We need Shukadev and we need Maharaj Parikshit in order to have Bhagavatam. So if we have somebody who can speak in the position of Shukadev Goswami, of course, nobody is saying that somebody is Shukadev Goswami, but sincerely trying to represent Shukadev Goswami, and someone who is sincerely trying to inquire for the benefit of the general populace. Then we have Shuka and Parikshit. Then there will be Bhagavatam, there will be Krishna. Okay. So we believe that this has been very beautiful because Shukadev is here and Maharaj Parikshit is here. Now, before we go, I have one quick question for you all, especially those of you who were here yesterday. Today's text were discussed. Sorry.
Yeah, Sir Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, before you give this question to devotees,
yeah,
follow-up question to the answer Prabhu just gave about prayers.
All right, if you can be brief, because we wanted to end, but if you can be brief, you can go ahead, please, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, Prabhu,
can we go offline and
the
then
answers? Sorry.
I said, can we go offline and then continue? Otherwise, the YouTube will be too long.
Okay, sure.
Of course. Well, all right. So we're going to do that as what's the name, Harichakra Prabhu suggested. But before we do that, I wanted to share this, that Salika Prabhu, this is the text we discussed today, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Do we have any devotee here today who was also in attendance yesterday from the very beginning?
Yes, I am.
I think, Madhuvan, you were here.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, who finds a problem with this particular verse? I mean, it may be difficult for you to answer because how dare you think there is a problem with the Srimad Bhagavatam verse? But my question is, what is the problem with this verse we're discussing today?
Maybe you should give purport.
Well, some time ago, right? This is very interesting. And I wanted to say this in camera, on camera, I should say. Some time ago in West Africa, we were having Srimad Bhagavatam class. So there was kirtan, the deity, the altar was open. And while Gurudev was speaking, he asked the pujari to close the altar curtains. And Gurudev started asking every single devotee in the temple room, what was the color of the deity's clothes? And almost everybody couldn't get it right. And Gurudev avoided the pujari. Says the pujari, no, you are not included in this question. And I remember that time, my temple president at the time, he answered, he says, it's a multicolor. And Gurudev laughed, he says, you think you are the smartest, you know. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that yesterday I made a mistake and I put this verse up. And so this verse was the very verse that was discussed yesterday.
Oh,
Okay, you are right. Because I felt confused, even from my notebook now. I have to change the last, it was 33 yesterday. I now change it to 32. I make today 33. So
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I
Okay, so I moved it to 34 because I knew that, okay, we're going to do 34. And when Salika Prabhu started speaking, he talked about 33. So I went back and I checked the flyer and I saw that, yes, today is supposed to be 33. So yesterday should have been 32, but we did 33 instead of 32. And so I was watching to see if anybody will catch it, that this is a repetition. That will indicate that we paying attention to what we come here to hear. So thank you all, Madhuva Prabhu, for catching that. But I have to give you a hint for you to catch it. And I ask this because some devotees were here yesterday, but they were not here from the very beginning, so they may not catch it. That's why I asked specifically who was here in the beginning. But it's very important that we pay attention to things like that. With that being said, we went to humble.
my notebook, you see where I've done the correction, man.
Okay. Okay.
I have to calculate something.
Yes. Thank you so much, Madhuva Prabhu.
Babu is a Bhakti Vibe student.
Yeah, very nice. So with that being said, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Just have a comment, something from what Salika Prabhu, his speech. I think my advice to him is to write an autobiography and probably put 1 or 2 chapters on Bali Prabhu or something like that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Because the devotees are requesting, I'll try.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, you may unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Krishna
Krishna. Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Panchakapata Rubhyas
Kalpa Terebhascha.
Chakapatarubhyascha, Dvipasandhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanabhevyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Jai.
Jai.
Jai. Grace Salika Prabhu ki jai.
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 Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai,
Very
Jai.
wonderful class today.